Check, check, check. Check, 1, 2. Check, 1, 2. October 7th, 2025. It is a gray day here in North Texas. Nothing too special to talk about in terms of the weather. And it's a beautiful Tuesday, though, because Tuesdays are almost the little gaps in the football season that you get to reflect on what you just saw. When you get into the middle of football season, you really don't have much time to digest. And I think a huge part of that is because of the schedule. It truly just comes down to the schedule. You watch everything that you see, but you never really get to internalize all your takes. And that's part of the best thing about having the Stadium Pulse, is truly having this vessel to be able to talk about these specific takes that we'll have today. So what we're going to do for the Tuesday show, if you are a first-time viewer, first time ever seeing this face, welcome. This is a college football show powered by Kretschmann Media. Stick around if you love some college football, but we're going to be talking about who's the number one team in the country. In my opinion, we have a couple of candidates we're going to walk through. We're going to start talking, why isn't Texas A&M being seen as a national championship contender? I've had a couple of videos and tweets go a little semi-viral for what it's worth. And I want to talk about that a little bit further, because I do think it's an interesting conversation of what's the threshold for people to actually take Texas A&M serious. And then we have Red River to break down. So if you want to, I propose that we potentially even predict Illinois, Ohio State. This is a loaded college football slate, honestly, and it's going to be difficult for me to be able to watch all the games. My Sunday isn't even going to be slated for the NFL. It's going to be slated to watching what I missed on Saturday, because I will be at Florida, Texas A&M. I'll give a little bit of a deeper dive into that one on Thursday, so my prediction will be there for that one. Why don't we go ahead and dive on in? Who is the number one team in the country this point into the season? Week 2 of October, about a month and a half of football has been played. So I feel like we have enough data, we have enough information to make a good, solid starting place of who is the best team up to this point. Because we can't really say after 2 weeks who's the best team when some teams haven't been tested. Some teams don't even have a Power 4 win yet. I'm looking at Penn State and Texas. I think now we have a good enough of amount of data to make at least a good starting place, because obviously it's not a finished product. You don't want to make your final decision in October, because you're going to get burned once we get into the weird vibes that is November. I think we have about 3 candidates in terms of the best team in college football. I feel very strong about the first 2 that we're going to talk about, that being Miami, Carson Beck, Malachi Toney, Mario Cristobal, and you cannot forget about Ruben Bain and plenty of the other dynamic playmakers on this team. You, of course, have Ohio State. Ohio State being the defending national champions. Ohio State with Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, CJ Donaldson, Julian Sayin. You cannot forget about Caleb Downs on the defense and plenty of others. Arvell Reese is one of my favorite players in the entire country. When we start diving into the draft conversation, he's going to be one of my favorite prospects. I can tell you that right now. And then we'll also mention Oregon. It's going to be more of an honorable mention when talking about Oregon. A, because of what we saw with Penn State and UCLA, maybe Oregon broke them. I completely get that. You can make that argument if you want, but I do think it is a very tall hill to climb if you want Oregon to be the number one team in the country. I understand they probably, what at the time felt like the most impressive win walking into the night whiteout, getting the win against Penn State, but it definitely takes a hit with that loss to UCLA. And the same could be said for Ohio State and Texas. What we thought was an immaculate test for the Ohio State defense, Texas has still not been able to get their offensive identity to click in any kind of fashion outside of playing Sam Houston State. So really, can we honestly feel like this Ohio State defense has been truly tested? I could make the argument that their battle against Washington and how they shut down in the red zone and was able to shut down Jonah Coleman and DeMond Williams, that's more of an impressive feat at this point into the season than what they did to Texas at home, especially knowing that Ohio State had to travel across country into that Washington environment. But I think when we talk about the top two, which I think are pretty definitive, at least from my perspective, I'd be open to hearing if you think Oregon is the number one team. But I really do feel like it's Miami and it's Ohio State. Those are the top two teams in the country. And if you want to say one is above the other, I'm really not going to fight you on it. The only pushback that I've truly gotten has been from Ohio State fans who feel, how dare you put them anything below one? We're the defending national champions. We have all the talent in the world. We look incredible. Why wouldn't you put us at number one? And I will tell you why right now, because I think Miami is the number one team in the country. A, because of their resume. The resume is fantastic. It's fantastic. It gets stronger once you realize that Florida beat Texas. Therefore, that win looks a lot more quality in the way that Miami dominated them. One of the questions we had about Miami was how were they going to react in a road situation, a true road test for Carson Beck and the crew? They go dominate Florida State. Do not let that box score fool you in a couple months when you go look back on the ESPN page and you say, oh, Florida State, it was damn near a one-possession game. How are we saying this is a super quality win? Well, for about 3.5 quarters, Miami dominated it. Then they took their foot off the gas pedal, and then Florida State clawed back. That's just the makeup of their team and Mike Norvell and Thomas Castellanos. You have USF on there. You have Notre Dame on there. Miami keeps rising above to the occasion, and I think they match up in talent. As much as we want to say that Ohio State is just this factory, because they are, Miami's been a factory that hasn't produced quality pieces. At the end of the day, they have been disappointing relative to what they've had. Last year with Cam Ward, a Heisman potential quarterback, they disappointed on the defense. Now, let's see what they can do when their defense is incredible. Miami can beat you in a multitude of different ways. And that's not to say when I think one team can do one thing, the other one can't. We're splitting hairs between two of the top programs in the entire country. So do not get it twisted when I say Miami can do something, therefore Ohio State can't. That's not what I'm trying to say. If anything, I'm propping both of these teams up because of how good they've played up to this point, because it's been incredible. And so when we're talking about Miami, this is a program, this is a team that has been able to win in a multitude of different ways. If you want to get beat by their defense, yeah, you can go get smashed for about 4 quarters because Ruben Bain, as a defensive player, is in my top 10 in terms of Heisman candidates. He's been that good. And for frame of reference, I make it very difficult to say that anybody could be on, at least on the defensive side of the ball, into the Heisman discussion. Now, when we're talking about, say, Ohio State, I don't know if I can confidently, and I mean with utmost confidence, that they're going to be a team that can win in a bunch of different ways. That's not to say that they can't. I just haven't seen it yet. I've seen them win a gritty fight against Texas, and I've seen them win a gritty fight against Washington. If it's got to be close every single time, now to be fair, Washington, the score wasn't that close. I just think going into that road environment, impressive win. But I wonder, can Ohio State win a shootout? They have the talent to do so. I don't deny that. I really don't. And we'll find out. They go play Illinois this weekend. I think that's going to be a fascinating matchup. We'll preview that at the end of the episode. But Miami, to me, has shown more this year. We're working off of a lot of merit that has been built in previous years with Ohio State, and understandably so. They're the national champions. If you want to take that and run, you can. But I'm basing on what I've seen this season. What I've seen this season has been more impressive feats from Miami, a team that can stack up in terms of talent, a better quarterback, a more proven quarterback, Sure, maybe they don't have the same level of wide receivers. No one in the country does, maybe outside of Alabama, but even then, I'm probably taking Ohio State. And a defense that has looked good, but hasn't really been tested. I think Josh Pate said it best. Have we really seen every part of this Ohio State team be tested? I feel like we have with Miami, and we know more with Miami in 2025 than we do with Ohio State. And so that's what makes me more confident when putting them at the number one spot in the country. Ohio State, it's no disrespect to your program. It's no disrespect to you. You will probably still take offense for me putting it at 2 as that traditionally becomes the case. And then I'd probably have Oregon at number 3. We have about 4 people in here. So if this is your first time watching the Stadium Pulse, leave a like, leave a comment. This is supposed to be interactive. And we'll get there at one point when the chat's filled up, and I love reacting to y'all's comments. But, go check out the other content that we've been building out here. It's just becoming more and more, and it means the world when you guys give it an opportunity, because this is something that I want to grow and become a college football community. At what point will people actually see Texas A&M as a national title contender? Now, I'm not saying Texas A&M should be a national title contender in October. I'm not going to do that, especially knowing who they have to face in Florida this weekend. That's an easy loss that could potentially happen. They could go to Arkansas with Bobby Petrino. That could be a loss. Based on what we've seen with Texas A&M in years past, sure, it hasn't been Micah Elko-centric, but the identity of this team, they have to go against the grain of what history has dictated. That could be a loss. At LSU, they've not won since joining in the SEC at Baton Rouge. They get a bye week. They go to Missouri. Missouri's a talented program. We'll talk about them in Alabama. I'm higher on Missouri than most people. Then they have South Carolina coming into town, Samford, and then at Texas. Those are a lot of games that could be potential losses. Texas A&M 5-0 for the first time in 2016. But what I want to really talk about is not just the history, because that's a layup. Anybody that talks in front of a microphone that talks about Texas A&M, we can sit here and say they're going to collapse in November. They're going to go 8-4. Boom, I get a bunch of views, and it's simple. But that's not what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how close are they to actual national championship contention, because at number 5, I'm not hearing a lot of buzz and a lot of noise, because I think, A, people are scared to say it, and I think, B, the history is so weighted in the room that you really can't feel confident to say national championship. You could say, oh, they're a college football playoff contender, but you really don't see them as a potential national championship contender. And it's not for a lack of talent. It's never been for a lack of talent for Texas A&M. And so if we were to get a little granular, what are the aspects that are truly stopping them from national championship contention? Well, number one, it's the penalties. They're in the 110s, even maybe 120s in terms of penalties. That type of stuff will lose you a playoff game. It will outright lose you a playoff game if you're in the 120s in terms of penalties. That will, A, stop explosive plays because it happened against Mississippi State, and B, in a critical moment, in a close game, you really want to be the team that puts it in the hands of an SEC referee? Listen, I'm an SEC guy. I think that it's the best conference. That's a conversation for another day. But I think we can all agree, any referee, if you put the game into their hands, that's the easiest way to get onto Twitter and crash out. Where you have the SEC officiating saying, yeah, we got the call wrong. And that's why you lost. You never want to put it in their hands. That's why I don't really blame referees. I blame the team that let it become that close of a decision. They should still take responsibility for their bad calls. I would also say B, because penalties, that's volatile. That's something that could get better through the course of the season, or could be a recurring thing that you have to overcome and you continuously shoot yourself in the foot. That could be a limiting factor to a national championship. I would also say Marcel Reed's deep passing. There's a difference between Marcel Reed when he's comfortable, his feet are set, and he's not hesitating. That's my biggest concern with him, at least in this Mississippi State game and this Auburn game, compared to what we saw against Notre Dame. He will sit in the pocket, happy feet, like it's almost Monsters Inc. If you know the scene I'm talking about with Wazowski and happy feet, he is making so much unnecessary movement in the pocket. And when you make unnecessary movement, You begin to hesitate. You're off platform. You're not balanced. And a lot of times when he is finally letting it rip, he's off balance and he I guess the best way to say it, over pursues. He puts too much onto it because he's not missing underneath. He's not missing low. He's missing high. And a lot of times he's missing too far to a point where even a guy like KC and Craver with that speed, they don't even get an opportunity at the ball. These guys are open. And I talked about it on my channel from Snap to Whistle Football. If you want to go check it out, I just did a full breakdown on the Colin Klein system and why it works so well, because they sit in 12 personnel. If you've never heard of 12 personnel, it's just one running back and two tight ends. They'll have at least 7 guys blocking or threat to block. And then they'll have the 2 speedsters on the outside, which spread out the defense to a level that you have to pick your poison. Do you want to deal with Le'Veon Moss and Reuben Owens for, 6-7 yards every single time? Or do you want to focus on Mario Craver? And do you want to focus on KC and not have the explosives, especially when you get to one high? Those guys are going to be able to get downfield. And this A&M offense is explosive. It's still not even maximizing the potential because of the double clutching, the happy feet that Marcel Reed has. I think Peter Burns said it on Twitter. He said, what's stopping Texas A&M from being an elite tier 1 program at this point is Marcel Reed. Now, that's not to say he's bad, because he's not. He's a good quarterback, but he has the potential to be a great quarterback. And that potential and that step is the difference between a good college football playoff team that could probably host and win a game and then someone that's going to go win a national championship. Is that consistency. Now, if you're a Texas A&M fan listening to this and you're typing away and you're upset and you're saying, oh, what is this guy talking about? Marcel's good. What I'm more saying is this is also a good thing because it will come with time. It's not something that you need an entire offseason to get comfortable with. Sure, by maybe next year, if he stays around because he's eligible for the NFL draft, but I highly doubt he's going to leave, he's going to get more comfortable as more games are being played. Let's not forget, this is his first full year starting, first full offseason going into the year knowing I'm Marcel Reed. I'm going to be the starting quarterback at Texas A&M, and this is my second year in the offense while having the first year starting and actually playing games. Because when you have happy feet, when you hesitate, a lot of it is you're not trusting what you're seeing and you're not comfortable. And that comfort comes from playing actual games. And I think he's going to get more comfortable as the season progresses. But I do feel these 2 main factors, because the defense has been lights out. You need that to be consistent. The offense, that identity is truly there. I talked about it with Texas. I've talked about with Penn State. They don't know what their offensive identity is. And so when things get difficult, they sputter out. They flame out because they don't know what to go back to and rely on. Texas A&M, they know exactly what to go back to. They know exactly where to go. They know exactly when to take shots. Colin Klein is in his bag. They have a veteran offensive line. The secondary is probably the most improved unit on the entire team. Torian York, he may be 5'10". He might be the best NFL player on this team. It's Marcel Reed's development that potentially could launch them into national championship contention. And it's what's making me hesitate, and probably a ton of other people, if you were to really dig into why they feel the way that they do without saying, oh, they're just going to go 8-4. Oh, history will go against them. That's not real reasons to me, especially knowing that Mike Elko is only in his second year. Let's talk about actual football reasons of why they're not potential national championship contender, but they're ranked at number 5. And who knows, maybe they go and lose to Florida. Florida's a damn good team. We'll talk about that on Thursday. But I think Texas A&M is so close. And the good thing that you can hope on to is maybe it's something that can happen this season. At the worst case, you hope that you get to a college football playoff. And maybe by next year, when Craver comes back, Casey's going to the NFL draft. York is probably going to the NFL draft. We do not want to get too far ahead of ourselves, honestly. But maybe next year he gets a little bit more comfortable, because I think that's going to be the limiting factor outside of the penalties. Get me some water. We got about 3 people in the chat today, so leave a like. Oh, it jumps up to 6. Cool. Welcome to the Stadium Pulse. I always will make sure that you guys know exactly what you're walking into. It's a college football show. We will only talk about college football. Once we get to the offseason, we'll talk about draft stuff, but this is going to be a college football channel. And so if you like this type of stuff, I promise you, We're here every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. Tuesday is more predictions, extra recap. Thursday, primarily predictions. And then Sunday is going to be full recaps of what we saw. Some weekends are just loaded like this one. We may end up having our Tuesday show next week, have a couple more recaps because it's going to be a chaotic weekend. If what I'm projecting is going to happen, I think it's going to be just pure chaos, to be honest. The Red River Shootout, known by no other name. I don't mean to take the same talk track that Josh Pate has, but honestly, the Red River Shootout is the only way that I will acknowledge this, or the Red River Rivalry, the Triple R, in the Cotton Bowl. Sidebar, that is the only place it should be played. Jerry Jones, keep your hands away. Now, I'm glad they invested into the stadium. I think this is the first game that the Cotton Bowl got its renovations. I'll be curious. This is a dream game of mine to go to. The moment that I truly feel like this media stuff is going to be working out is if I ever get a media pass to this game because of the weight and the impact. I've grown up in the state of Texas my entire life. Now, am I a Texas fan? Am I an Oklahoma fan? No. I wish both of these teams would lose, but I know the significance, and this is must-watch TV. Now, unfortunately, Texas decides they want to go lose to Florida, and now they are unranked, facing against number 6 Oklahoma, but Texas is still favored. I think it was an overcorrection by the AP poll, just because if we're power rating, you're not going to get 25 teams that are more talented than Texas, but the AP poll, I respect them to correct their mistakes because they shouldn't have been in the top 10 to begin with. I just never seen a jump like that to drop someone from the top 10 all the way out of the AP top 25. Same for Penn State, but right or wrong, sooner or later, I guess. The conversation is going to be around John Mateer. We're going to get that out of the way because I think there's a better conversation here to dictate what's going to actually happen in this game. John Mateer, it's almost too obvious that they're trying to hide the fact that he's probably going to play. He got his thumb injury. If you have not seen the message boards of the surgeon that actually repaired his thumb, he was on message boards. God, I love college football. There's no other sport in the world where you're going to find surgeons who fixed the star quarterback's hand be on Oklahoma message boards. What are we doing? Anywho, Brent Venables has been weird about answering any questions about John Mateer. Reports are saying one day that he's most likely not going to play. Venables says he's most likely not going to play. Day later, he's going to play. You feel likely that he's going to. You see that Texas is favored by 2.5. People are saying, well, that's because John Mateer's not playing. Actually, FanDuel confirmed that's with the assumption John Mateer is playing. It'd be about 5.5 if he wasn't. And that's because they trust what Texas has. And honestly, would I really blame them? They come off of their worst performance of the year. You're expecting that talent to bounce back in some sort of fashion. I highly doubt we're going to see this Texas team drop. I think it's more likely that they get a more spirited performance, especially in this rivalry spot. But what's going to make or break this team, and really this game, more than whether or not John Mateer plays, because everyone wants to talk about the quarterbacks, it's the matchup between the Texas offense and the Oklahoma defense. Because if it's Michael Hawkins Jr. playing on the Oklahoma offense against that Texas defense that sure had a bad performance against Florida, I still think they're a talented group that could definitely get to the quarterback. It's going to be a game of, can Michael Hawkins get us 17? Could he get us maybe even 20? And then our defense basically suffocates the Texas offense, because the Texas offense right now, we're looking at 47th points per game. We're looking at 103rd and third down conversion and efficiency, 102nd and fourth down conversion and efficiency, and then they're 99th in the country in red zone efficiency. Take that, internalize, write it down, do whatever you need to, but we're going to talk about the defense for Oklahoma, who is number 2 in stopping third downs, number 10 in fourth down stoppage, and 54th in red zone conversion. That's going to make or break the game. Who's going to break the trend here? Are we going to be talking about Oklahoma and this defense just applying pressure, Arch Manning taking 6 sacks against Florida? Or are we going to be talking about maybe a bounce back? Is Texas going to be able to run the ball with Wisner back for his second week? I think that's a fair question, because I think if you're Sarkisian and you go look at how you performed against Florida, what can we do? Because right now it is short game and it's deep shots down the field. There's no intermediate game in the passing attack for Texas right now. And I almost wonder, do you try to take the ball out of Arch Manning's hands? Basically make him play almost like a Brock Purdy style of game where he's not having to make a read. He is just getting the ball out as quickly as possible, because even though you get these moments of pure brilliance on the All-22 tape, there's moments of pure brilliance from Arch Manning. There's also a sack. There's also a ball in harm's way. There's times he gets sped up. There's times that the ball is hitting on the dirt. And those happen way more than what we see the brilliance from. And so I almost feel like you try to take the ball away from him, because if you let him sit back, Venables is going to eat him alive. This defensive line is going to feast. This Texas offensive line is just not good enough. And especially the conversions on the red zone, I think, are highly critical in this game. What's going to be 3 points? What's going to be 7? And in the rare instance, what's going to be a donut when you get into the 20-yard line? Because if you are not being able to put up points in those situations, the other team's going to win. Now, I'm assuming John Mateer is more than likely going to play here. And I think John Mateer, if he plays, I feel very confident Oklahoma is going to be able to get this win. And if Michael Hawkins Jr. wins, even though I said it on TikTok where I said maybe I lean towards Texas, as I'm talking about it out loud, I still lean Oklahoma. It would have to be such a drastic switch, a drastic swing of the pendulum from Texas's offense to not only find their identity in this rivalry spot against a very good defense. It would be so drastic that it fits college football for it to happen. But I think you are going to need a Wisner masterclass, or this rushing attack. Like, you're going to need 150 yards on the ground, maybe even 200. I don't see them airing it out against an Oklahoma defense that A, is going to be able to get to the quarterback at a very high level, but even then, make Arch think. It's going to be Venables, man. I've seen this guy drop a linebacker into a deep third coverage, bring both safeties down, and it put Jalen Milroe through a loop. I really do believe in this defense for Oklahoma. And if we want to flip it and you say, well, what's going to be the matchup between Oklahoma's offense? Well, we really don't know what we're going to get from Oklahoma's offense against the Texas defense. But what I do trust is more than likely Oklahoma's going to at least get to 17, 20, regardless of the quarterback, especially if it's Mateer. I feel way more confident in that. I don't know what I'm going to get with Texas. I have no clue. And what's arguably a more difficult matchup. I really do think Sarkisian, this is where you see how good of a play caller is he. Because I'm not saying they have no chance here. I think it's completely fair for them to be favored, knowing the talent that's on this roster. What I really need to see here, if you're a Texas fan or if you're a Sarkisian believer, is saying, if you are the play caller that people say that you are, you find ways to win. You find ways to correct the course. You find ways to jumpstart the car. It has not been working, and we are in the second week of October. We need to do something different. If it's taking the ball out of Arch's hands, it's taking the ball out of Arch's hands. You've already gone to the media saying, why is everyone comparing us? How many other teams could go play Ohio State and Florida? Shut up. I thought about making that a subject. You're Texas. You have all the talent and resources in the world that you want. The same thing that people make fun of Texas A&M is the same thing you could apply here. You have all the talent and resources in the world to get the damn job done. Get the damn job done against Oklahoma, your top rival. Because if you end up having 3 losses, you still have, at that point, Mississippi State's on the board, Vanderbilt's on the board, Georgia's on the board, and Texas A&M's on the board. Putting up a performance like that against Florida, the floodgates open for the rest of the season. But if you're able to bounce back and prove why they pay you and change this offense, get it running, it doesn't even have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be 40 points. It's got to be 21, 28 points that you feel confident in. And it's not like every first down you're scratching and clawing for some sort of consistency. That's what I want to see from Steve Sarkisian in this offense. Now, am I going to bet on it? No. I'm picking Oklahoma to win because I believe Brent Venables and I believe in this team to keep their momentum going. I think John Mateer is going to play. It's probably not going to be at 100%, but I think it's going to be just enough. And Sarkisian's got to show me. Outright, he's got to show me. That's the entire show, folks. We could do Ohio State, Illinois. We could. I'll save it for the Thursday show, folks. Thursday is going to be a lot of rapid fire predictions. We have a lot of games to talk about, but there was enough takeaways. Like I said at the top of the hour, I said, listen, man, you get these moments on Tuesday and Wednesday where you have to internalize and you have to really think about the takes that you're talking about. And the top two, who's the number one team in the country, A&M's national championship contention, and Red River. Those are the things I wanted to talk about today. But with that in mind, guys, I've seen a lot of people viewing the show today. It's easily some of our best numbers. It would mean the world if you just took a beat, maybe thought about clicking that red button. But if anything, go check out the other videos. Go check out the other shows. If you don't think I've earned your sub at this point, I promise you, sooner or later, if you watch enough content, you're going to be someone that's going to want this page to pop up on your channel. And so it would mean the world if you gave me an opportunity to talk some football with you. But with that in mind, guys, thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys next time.